That is a pretty fun fact. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the first ever live office hours for Easy Digital Downloads. My name is Kyle Maurer, coming from Michigan and doing marketing stuff at EDD. I'm joined by Chris Klazowski down in Arizona, and he is the CTO here at Sandhills Development. Thanks for joining me today, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Our purpose here today is to answer questions that users of Easy Digital Downloads have about digital e-commerce, about the EDD plugin, our extensions, running a successful online store, and in particular, the hot topic of the day, the 3.0 release, which has been in the works for a little while, is a big deal. And I'm pretty excited to talk about it. And I think there's a few people tuning in who are as well. So thanks for joining me, Chris.
Yeah, dude, let's do this.
Yeah. And we might be doing more office hours like this in the future. We'll see how this goes. The first one that we've ever done. First, I want to throw some questions your way, Chris, and you can help us set the stage a little. Talk about maybe a little bit about why we're doing 3.0 and what some of the exciting things are in this major release, which really has taken, we've put more time and effort into this release than any previous release. That's true?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is, when we started 3.0, our goal was to improve scale, improve accuracy, really make things more data-centric. For the longest time, we've been using custom post types, which has been the WordPress way to do things for a long time. And we've slowly been working custom database tables into extensions. Like I think we started with commissions, and we went to software licensing. And we really learned a lot of lessons from those extensions. And when it came time to do this update for 3.0 for EDD Core, we looked at the approach we had taken for the other ones. And while it worked, there were some improvements we could make. At the end of the day, we decided to basically rebuild the way we do custom database tables. If anyone is at WordCamp Europe this year, John James Jacoby, J-Trip, did a really amazing slide deck and talk on the new database class that we've written for this release that we've actually slowly been working into some of our other products as well, Sugar Calendar, Research Content Pro, and eventually we'll be open sourcing the database engine that we've created for 3.0.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time spent has been around the data model, building the data model in a more accurate and performant way. So that's really been the focus. However, it's basically a complete rewrite of how we think about EDD data, which is why it's been so difficult to get from here to there. When you're rewriting things from the ground up, you have to change so much of the code base. So that's really been where we're at right now. So.
Yeah. It really is an exciting time.
Excuse me.
I couldn't be that much more excited about EDD. One of the things that stands out to me is I believe that this major release, which is one of those big ones, one of those milestone releases for us, it's going to be different than what we see with a lot of major software updates and releases. Like every time, an OS ships a new version, or Facebook redesigns something, or we get Gutenberg released or something like this. These are big changes. Reception of those changes, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Not everybody's always thrilled when there are serious visual adjustments and changes in how the workflows work, and that is. I really believe that the 3.0 release of EDD will not suffer from that and will be one of the most popular releases we've ever had, despite the fact that it is a pretty big change.
Yeah, I mean, so we spent, as far as UI changes, what we really focused on was a lot of refinement in the administration area, refining reports, refining settings. Like I've spent a lot of time with people watching them use EDD over the past couple of years, and sometimes it's just hard to find what you need. So we've really reorganized some things, some of the settings. We really took the time to build out the UI in a way that is a lot less compressed and confusing, to make it a lot more visually accessible, visually easier to use and understand where things are at. And there was a lot of fine touches made in the early process of 3.0, right after the database stuff got done, or at least to a point where we already use it. Both John James Jacoby, Sean Davis, one of our devs, and Sonny Radalel really spent some time really honing in on the admin UI. So as far as UI changes, most of it's admin, and I think it's just going to make administering your site so much easier, especially around reporting.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The reporting is one of the most exciting things. I think that's probably what I'm the most stoked about as someone who's run an EDD store for a long time. There have always been some little challenges when it comes to reports, and reports are complicated. It has to do with the data structure impacting the speed at which you're able to render reports and the complexity of those reports, and all that stuff is greatly improved right now. And there are a whole lot of things in particular that have been asked for quite a while that are now possible. Like, for instance, now we can get reports on the usage of specific discount codes or reports on product variations. How long has that been a burning desired feature?
Yeah, well, and tax reporting became a thing. When we were working through the concept of because we were rebuilding the database from the ground up, which means we could really do anything we wanted, which sometimes is kind of overwhelming. But at the same time, we took the time to realize, okay, well, what is a tax rate? A tax rate should never be able to change. Once an order is made with a tax rate, you shouldn't be able to change the tax rate for something. You should just reference a new tax rate. So we've got the concept of being able to have a report of what taxes were, how much tax did you charge in the state of California or in the state of Michigan or in the state of Arizona. We've all these reports are available because of the way that we essentially rebuilt everything into its own custom tables. So tax reporting, customer reporting, file download reporting, specific download reports on sales, variations are reportable. We actually have the ability to do relative reporting. Drew Janes, one of our other devs, built out a reporting API with the ability to say, hey, I want to know customer growth. How many new customers do I have this week? Or how many customers did I gain or lose this week? And how does that compare to last week or this month and last month? And because of the way we built out all this UI, the new database, we can now expose all this data in the UI. So that's really been the big benefit. Discount reports, seeing how many times a discount has been used in a report, seeing the average customer savings, seeing the total savings from discounts and the time period are all possible now.
Right.
Which is really awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about the payment records. Payments are going to be looked at very differently after this release. Previously, they were pretty straightforward. There's a transaction that generates a payment record. And if you want to make a change, you change that payment record. You can refund the whole thing or nothing. And you can delete it and not much else. There's not a lot.
Right.
Now, explain what is possible after 3.0 that we couldn't do before.
All right. So when we started thinking about the fact that we're taking payments, and actually we've switched the verbiage to order, because an order is for the products. A payment is a transaction with the gateway. So we've actually split it out and called orders now. So now in EDD order, we call them orders instead of payment history. An order is immutable, meaning that an order really can't be changed once it's made. And we try to follow, and we had a lot of discussions on what it looks like. Let's say you purchase something from a store. If you need to return an item, they don't just delete it from that piece of paper you got. They generate a refund receipt, and they staple the two together, at least at the store's iCode do. So we now have the concept of sales orders and refund orders. You can have multiple refund orders that associate with a single sales order. If you refund multiple items, we have the concept of partially refunding. Right now, we've built out the UI for that, and now we're integrating all the gateways to it for the ones that support partial refunds. So you'll be able to simply go into an order, check the things you want to refund, leave some things active still, and hit refund. And then you've generated a new payment record that is a refund, or an order record that is a refund.
Right.
And now all these things are related. So you can actually get reports on refunds at this point because we've now instituted this data model. So you can actually see, hey, what percentage of orders are being refunded? And you can see that for a date range. And is that better or worse than the previous range? So yeah, it's the concept of orders being immutable. It will make reporting easier. It will make store owners have the power to be able to make decisions on how they're operating their stores a lot easier too. So
right. And what about user roles, and how are those
yeah,
affecting the workflows differently now?
Yeah, I think it was in 2.8, we added a bunch of roles to EDD, say like shop worker, shop accountant, shop owner, shop manager. And with that, we started restricting what could be done within the UI based off of those roles. Like as a shop worker, you can't necessarily change settings for EDD, but you can go ahead and view payment records. And this would be something like a support staff. You want your support staff to go ahead. And the really cool part is we added that concept of a refund window. So by default, I think it's 30 days. I'd have to go up. I'm fairly certain it's 30 days and refundable. So if an order passes 30 days and a customer asks for a refund, a shop worker can't refund it. They need to go to a shop owner or or an admin, because this is something we wanted to be able to empower stores to have staff that necessarily, you don't want them to have the ability to just refund everything, but you do want to be able to refund if you're an admin. So it kind of adds the ability to allow you to empower your employees to just work in a more efficient way. So it's kind of and you can do this at a store level and on a per product. So you could say that, sorry, this product is not refundable. And again, it would take an admin to do something with it. Or you can say, this product actually is only a 15-day refund period instead of a 30. So each product has its own refundable period.
That's amazing.
Yep. So yeah. I want to comment. There's one comment I just saw. The payment orders will not be breaking. At least that's our goal. We've been doing our best to keep everything backwards compatible. IDs don't change. We found a really nice loophole in the database structure that we can reserve all the old order IDs, or the payment IDs, and use them as the new order IDs, and backfill the auto increment with all the new order IDs. So you can still reference the same old order or payment ID, and it will just pull up the new order ID that's been migrated. So it's kind of pretty cool. That was John Jacoby and them kind of came through that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for the good question, Remy. And I hope that answers what you're looking for. Joan doesn't have so much a question, but does mention how intimidating and dangerous a major release of an e-commerce plugin is. What do you have to say to those who are looking forward to this with a little bit of maybe anxiety about like just how much will be changing, maybe especially those store owners who have custom code, snippets, extra plugins that they've made? What can you say to them?
Yeah, so I think anyone running a store, whenever you hit the upgrade button, no matter what you're upgrading, should definitely have some sort of hesitation. If you're not running it in a staging first, you should be. If you're not running it locally because it's a major part of your business, that's also something I look at. Like, we've built this migrator. We built the WP CLI and a UI method to be able to run the upgrades. Larger stores, I always recommend with WP CLI because there's a lot less risk involved when you run it via WP CLI. But what we ended up doing was writing this really, really complete upgrade routine that ports all the data over. It can be run and rerun if necessary. I actually ran our site locally, which was quite a few payment records. It took me a few hours to run it, but everything migrated as successfully as I could see. We're still, again, running it locally for us. We're going to be moving to our staging here probably in the next, I'd say a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, depending on the final touches that we put onto things. And the beauty of it is when this migration's running, new orders can come in. So you don't even have to go to maintenance mode for the orders to be, you can be migrating and taking new orders at the same time, which is actually really cool. I was really happy to be able to pull that off. So
Yeah.
um,
Cyril asks a question,
yeah,
unless you were unfinished.
no, it's good. This is a good question.
Yeah.
Why didn't we just release it with the database stuff? You know, I fought with this a little bit, but at the end of the day, the reporting didn't really take that much time. The reporting APIs were super simple to build out. We decided early on that we wanted to, if we just released the database stuff, it was going to almost feel like we didn't do anything to customers, like we didn't improve anything. But as we started going through the database part of it, we realized that a lot of the things we needed to build out for a proper accounting practices realm it needed to be built in the database. And the reporting just happens to be like a benefit of what we got out of the database model. It was kind of like hey, we're exposing all this data to you. However, the reporting didn't take us that long. We've actually spent very little time on reporting lately. A lot of our time has been spent in getting integrations with all of our add-ons working, finding, as we started activating extensions, we would find little edge cases of bugs that we'd just have to fix up in EDD core. So why didn't we release it with just the database? Because the reporting wasn't the bottleneck. The reporting was actually done pretty early. The database model has been the hardest part to kind of get accurate. So
Great. And you've been testing this big time with large data sets.
Yeah,
like looking at big stores. Like
yeah.
For a lot of us, we're talking about a lot of the stores that use EDD do not come close to the number of records that you've been testing with.
Yeah,
Tens,
right.
if not hundreds of thousands of records to make sure that this should be solid for anybody.
Yep. Yeah, I ran over 120,000 payment records through at one time with WP CLI, and that was pretty smooth. I've been doing tests at like 5,000. I did a 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and between the 10 and 20,000, I think it was less than 30 minutes to migrate everything. So, yeah, it's been really cool. Now, that is going to be. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, 200,000. You got it, man. The beauty of kind of the way we built it is also something that makes the upgrade time kind of it's going to be like your mileage may vary a little bit because we didn't just create order records as a table. We also did order items as a table. So no longer are the products you sold in an order in this nice, awesome serialized array that you can't search. Each item on an order has its own row in another table, referencing the order that it belongs to, which gives us the ability, again, this is what powers a lot of the reporting. So if you make a lot of sales that include 5-10 items per order, it may take a little longer to migrate than someone who just sells a single item and has 100,000 orders. So there's going to be some variance in there, but overall, it's pretty quick.
Right. Yeah.
I think I spent like 2 weeks just working on performance of the migration.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun.
Yeah. That migration is pretty intense because the underlying structure is just so dramatically different now. And there are a lot of stores using EDD with large data sets. And we don't want to ship something that is only going to work for tiny stores or for some people and the rest have to go through some upgrade project or something. We want this to just work for everybody, be as backward compatible as possible.
And I'm a big fan of shipping often. The one thing that when I get asked a lot is, well, like, why don't you just ship it when it's close to working? And the issue with that is we're not just dealing with, I always break it down to, we're dealing with people's businesses. We're dealing with people's, like, the ultimate core of their business, which is taking money. Our software is literally their business moneymaker, that they're using our software to make sales. And if we don't release a perfectly accurate migration and something that just always records tax and sales and discounts properly, then we are hindering the business. So I love to ship things quickly and ship things often. And as said, done is better than perfect. I agree with that most of the time. I will 100% agree that it's something I like to live by. But when I'm dealing with a business's transaction records, I can't comfortably go with that all the time, because it's not just a simple changing the structure in the post table. It is literally rebuilding all new tables. So it's been, I want to have it done too. And I think one of the biggest things that we've done is made sure that we're doing it accurately. I know that's taking time, and I've talked to a few store owners who are like, I know it's taking a long time, but I appreciate you're taking time to make sure that it's accurate, which I think is very important when it comes to transactional data dealing with payment records. It's money at the end of the day. It's your customer's money that you're dealing with, and anytime that we work with not just our customers' money, but your customers' money, we have to make sure that we're doing it in the most accurate way possible and that it works.
Yeah. Ugh, you're so right in making that point. The rules that we are talking about that guide us are applicable to every software developer, really, but I would agree with you that they are even more serious for a business like ours, where the software is powering the e-commerce functionality for a business. It's the foundation. I've shipped and supported lots of other plugins before where just it's going to be okay at the end of the day. If I ship something and some setting doesn't work quite the same way anymore, there's confusion, and what do you know, something on the front end is not showing in the right place any longer. We push out a bug fix and we move on with our lives. But with a platform like Easy Digital Downloads, the margin for error is like zero, like nothing.
Yeah.
So we're taking this extremely seriously. And I would also add that we do talk a lot about this stuff internally. So virtually everything that is being discussed or brought up in the chat is brought up amongst our team.
Absolutely.
About often.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of mention of trust in the chat, and I think that is the key. At the end of the day, you guys are trusting us with your business. I mean, you chose our software, or are choosing our software, or thinking of choosing our software to run your business. And at the end of the day, if we don't do it in a way that continues to instill trust, then we have failed at our jobs. So that is something I take to heart. I've built many plugins too. I've built quite a few. I think I'm at like 20 or something like that, plus all the ones I've never released because I'm like, no one's going to want that. I've got a few of those, like WP DeLorean Ipsum, stuff like that.
DeLorean Ipsum.
Yeah. The idea that when you're dealing with the operation of someone's business, it changes the way you think about what you're working on. Obviously, bugs happen in software, but we want to try and not make the bug completely changing the way your business operates. And that's kind of like my primary goal with it. So right now we're pushing through the last. Right now, we have Phil Johnston and I going hard on 3.0. We have set up a sprint system so we can knock out the remaining issues. Every couple of weeks, we get together, we put issues into the week, and then we just start slamming on them and testing them. Up until recently, it's been only me working on it. So I pulled Phil in about a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe now, to just really focused on 3.0. We had him doing extension releases and bug fixes for extensions and kind of maintaining that while I was trying to do the 3.0 thing. And what we found is that sometimes I just need someone to help test and do that kind of stuff. So yeah, to have two of us now working full time and soon probably a third, it's going to really help speed up that development. Early on in development, we had two people working on it full time for the database and kind of like the backwards compatibility stuff. And then we had someone working on reporting, but we borrowed them from other products within Sandhills. to help us out. And they got us to a point where we were functioning and working, obviously not perfectly at that time. So that's where I came in with my history of knowing EDD to start moving it forward. And I was solely working on it for quite a while. And that's a whole nother discussion. Like a sole developer on a large change can be a really kind of lonely place at a time. You know, you're looking for feedback and it's just not there sometimes, or you need people to test, but they've got other priorities. So it's been really kind of cool to get back into having a team working on it again. And that's really actually helped move things forward. We've got, if you check out the release 3.0 branch in our GitHub, Phil made an awesome markdown file in the includes database folder that literally lists out all the tables, what they're used for, when you should use them as a developer, when you shouldn't use them as a developer, and what type of data they hold. We got a couple of tweaks to make that from some recent changes, but that's going to help other developers understand how to use the new tables as well. So, yeah. Ben, no, we'll have a UI update, a CLI documentation update for that. There will be something about that.
Yeah. Joan had a question about the SCA stuff.
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
So we now have 3 products that use Stripe. One exclusively with WP Simple Pay. Restrict Content Pro uses it, and we use it, and EDD. So with that, we have a team of developers we have one developer currently working on it with WP Simple Pay. He's actually working with Stripe to get a couple of bugs fixed on their end, or waiting for a couple features on their end to get SCA completely working with WP Simple Pay. Since it's a far less complex integration, that's where we wanted to start. And then he's bringing all the knowledge he got from building it with WP Simple Pay and working with the EDD and RCP teams to integrate it with us. So yeah, it is on our plan. We know about it. We are researching it. We're talking to Stripe about it. And we're hoping that we can be there very shortly.
Sure. It isn't, you're not classifying it as a part of the 3.0 project.
No, I'm not. No.
It's a separate concern, but we are on the ball.
Yep.
Cyril wants to ask about if we could comment on the difference between how we have changed our database structure compared to how WooCommerce has done in their recent updates. Do you have any commentary on that?
I honestly am not comfortable comparing them yet. I still need to really do a deep dive between our two, but I can definitely look into releasing something kind of comparing it if we want to in a future one of these. What I will say is the way we looked at it is anytime that we were storing something in Meta, we broke it down and realized it's either a column on the object or it is another object. And we really wanted to break things down into their individual rows instead of being this like clumped together array of data. That's really what we focused on, the concept of that. So,
sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, both WooCommerce and Easy Digital Downloads are kind of trying to accomplish very similar things at this stage in their product life. Become more scalable, become more efficient, be able to handle things like more complex reports and faster queries and all this stuff. But they are taking different approaches when you really...
We are slightly different approaches, which I think is fine. I won't ever say someone's doing it completely wrong. Usually they have their reasons for doing it the way they're doing it, and we have the reasons we're doing it the way we do it. The key for us was we had to stop doing math in PHP. Math in PHP is slow because you have to go pull all the records and then use PHP to for each and loop over them to basically make a sum, which takes forever. When we built out the new database tables, the whole point was we should be able to get back the sum or the average or the difference without ever having to run that in PHP if possible. So we can just ask MySQL what the average is, or ask MySQL what the sum is, and just get the number back, which is what makes our reporting so much faster. I think we're loading 15 or between 8 and 15 tiles on the overview, which are the relative reports, and 2 full-on graphs for 30 days running at the bottom of the tiles. And that is loading within like a couple seconds, which is like, it's a tribute to all the work that Sunny and John and Drew did early on in the process. Now we're on to refinement. and accuracy of all those reports. So
yeah, it's outstanding. I'm really pleased.
The thing is when in WooCommerce and us had the same scaling issues, to be completely honest. We were storing things as post types, which was the wrong way to go with some of this. What makes the reporting so quick and so fast is the new data structures. So if WooCommerce is going to better reporting, they're probably going to a new database structure. And if we're going to better reporting, we're moving to a new database structure, which I know for sure. And it's required at this point for you to do the complex reporting. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple questions about release date. I know we don't have a release date, Chris,
Yeah.
like we are, how do you want to put it? Like we're more than halfway there, right?
Oh, yeah. We actually have a final set of sprint items we're trying to complete. Phil and I right now are going through what we believe is kind of the last set of issues that we need to get done before we can start releasing extension updates. So one of the interesting things about this is because it's such a monumental change, how are we going to handle extension releases? Like what happens if you upgrade EDD and you don't upgrade recurring? Like, do we have a problem there? So what we are attempting to do is pre-release versions of extensions that have 3.0 compatibility. So those are all out and have code that say like, hey, if we're running 3.0, do this instead. Or, hey, in order to work with 3.0, we need to change a hook or a filter here or there. And we're doing that ahead of time, or trying to get as many of those out as we can right now. And that's where we're at right now. So we're working through these final bugs. A lot of our final bugs that we're finding are because of extensions. We're activating extensions and testing things out and finding things that are either a bug in the extension or a bug in EDD core. The first step is figuring out where the bug exists, if it's a backwards compatibility or a true bug. And then hopefully getting a release out for the extension or fixing it in EDD, because we don't want to release on day one and have no extensions work. That just would be, and I don't really want to run the route of saying like, okay, well, before you update EDD3, you have to go update all these extensions first. We want to rolling release a lot of these extensions so that when 3.0 launches, they've already been updated to work with it. So right now we're going through fixing the last bugs. Phil and I are finishing our sprint tomorrow, this sprint. We'll be planning another sprint Monday. I'm hoping within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we'll be at a point where we're comfortable saying this is functioning as EDD core. And kind of how this works is we'll likely put out a beta 1, which is like, this is EDD 3.0. I don't want to make a solid date a month, but like that's my goal, is to try and do about a month, plus minus a couple of weeks, depending on sprints and life happening. We'll put out EDD and it will be EDD. This isn't something you're going to run on staging with all your extensions. This isn't going to be something that you're putting live right away, because it's going to be an early beta. And we're going to want people to just make sure EDD is working as core. And in that time, we will be going through and updating and working on extensions to get those working. So yeah, I really want to get it to a point where we're comfortable with it going on. I think we're probably, another thing that I think is important to realize is we do what's called dog fooding. If anyone's not familiar with the term, I think it was the CEO of Elbow Dog Food. I think it's a story, maybe an urban legend, but he used to eat the dog food at the shareholders meetings to prove that it was safe or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the term's kind of weird, but we dog food. We use our software. Before you get a beta of our software that you should be using, it's running on one of our sites. And we do this very commonly. No we don't release an extension until it's been running on our site for a minimum of a few hours, depending on what we need to see. Sometimes 2 days, sometimes longer. So we're going to run it on our own stuff so we can catch the bugs before you ever see them, is the goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to push this release as fast as possible at this point, because we really need to move it forward. We've had a lot of improvements, and I think it's going to do a lot of good things for businesses with all the new reporting metrics you're going to be able to get. But at the same time, again, it has to be accurate, and it can't have bugs with the transaction process. So the I think something else to remember, I failed to mention this early on. We talked about the fact that orders are immutable. You can't change orders. Well, we realized early on that because of that, we are actually going to be rolling manual purchases into core. It will no longer be a paid add-on. So to create a manual payment, it will just be an EDD core.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Big change.
Yeah, it's outstanding. I am looking for more questions as they pop up in the chat. I'm keeping a close eye on that. So if anybody tuning in, like there's things you're curious about, and also keep in mind, it doesn't have to pertain to 3.0, whatever is on your mind these days, we've got some time to share with you. But in the meantime, Chris, is there anything do you want to share visually? Give people like a peek who maybe haven't seen much yet?
Yeah, I can kind of show the UI a little bit for the reporting. Let me kick this down.
Let's look at a couple highlights. It'll be fun. And while you're pulling that up, in the meantime, as I said, drop some questions in the chat. I'll try and keep track of those, and we'll hit them as best we can.
Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yeah, downloads is getting this new menu structure. One of the biggest complaints we always got is it's really hard to navigate our admin UI. So we started, we got some complaints in Sugar Calendar that it looks different than other drop, menu systems. But really, we started breaking these out so it's easier to find what you need. Again, making it easier to manage your site, which was a really big focus. You'll notice instantly we have orders instead of payments. We're still doing some refinement on the admin UI, so what you see here may not be the final version, but you can see I made some purchases last night. So orders come in over here. We've got now the ability to do like a refund UI, so we can actually like refund orders. I've got some preset for us. We kind of moved to a more compressed UI too, so it's just not this big. You can't see my hands. I'm making hand gestures, but you can't see them. Live stream fail. Okay, so we've kind of come through, instead of having this really long admin page, we've started separating out some of the data to make it a little easier to kind of manage. You also notice that we can't edit these things. Again, we're making them immutable. And if you caught this, I don't know if you did, but we now have a refunds tab up here. And refunds are generated as the original order number, an R to indicate refund, and a number of what number refund this is for the order. So if I were to generate another refund for order 595, it would be R-2. And you'll notice it's a negative amount. It has the date, the customer, the gateway. If we come in here, we can see that this is a refunded product. It is straight up reversing all values. And we actually can go ahead and say, it says you're viewing a refund order. Click here to view the original order. So we can actually go back, see the original order. This was one where we only refunded one item. Amazing. And this list of related refunds. So if I were to go through and let's say we didn't really want a sample digital download. Who wants samples these days? We'll go ahead and submit the refund. And we can actually just go view the refund. So we're good now. This is set over here. Let's go over to orders and refunds. And you'll see we now have 595 R2. So separate orders, separate transactions. We have the concept now, a new database table for just the transaction ID at the gateway. So we'll be able to reference a transaction separately. Transactions, again, being the actual callback to the gateway. They'll send back a refund. So a refund will actually have a transaction ID as well. So you'll be able to, that'll show up over here. I'm not hooked up to a live gateway for this one. So, but you'll have, where you would normally see the transaction ID for an order, a purchase, you would also see the transaction ID for the refund. So I'm really excited about the refund concept. I think it's going to make store owners a lot more empowered to make decisions on how they're running their stores, and really get good reporting on how many people are actually asking for a refund, how kind of dealing with that kind of stuff. So again, we go do a lot of refinements. So if we look at like the customers tab just got completely revamped. We now have got a set of different addresses, so you can reference each address differently. It's been a real pleasure to kind of like get a chance to refine our UI. The discounts didn't really change much here, but where we do get the biggest benefit, and this is what I'll kind of focus on, is the reporting. We shared this out a long time ago, but it's definitely gotten some refinement. If I don't know if I'm going to reload this really quick, and I'm going to do a hard refresh, and I want you guys to watch how fast this goes. Okay, it's done.
That was quick.
Yeah, right. So this is amazing. This is a full tileable system. This is a system that lets us show and hide and create reports and everything that help you run your store. So we can see that in the last 30 days, we are up 3% in our taxes, but the average order value is down 2%. Sales are up 6%. Sales records over the last 30 days, lifetime earnings, average revenue per customer, our ARPUs or per user, or this is customer. Our refunds are up 6% because I processed a bunch of refunds so I could show them to you yesterday. We get our busiest day, how many file downloads, and this is all in the overview chat. So we can kind of see our report for sales and earnings, which is the only report that used to be in the overview, by the way. So this gives us a really good view, and also gives us a list of refunds. So we can actually see that I processed some refunds yesterday. Or today, sorry, it was past midnight. So 3 refunds totaling $42 I refunded yesterday. But we can actually go in and look at the products. We know that in the last 30 days, one more sample product has been our most valuable product. We can kind of look at that. It sold 48 times for $1,500 in the last 30 days. And if I change this to just, I just want to know what we're looking at last week. What was last week like? It was still the top one. Apparently, it's a really popular download. So, but you can kind of see the average sales and earnings for things. So over on the average, all of our products generated one sale for $1,408 in sales. We get the earnings by taxonomy, a nice chart showing you your tags and your categories and what they're earning. And again, all related to the time frame of last week. This one is going to be, I think this will be really cool because again, one thing, if you notice, it breaks down another sample product advanced, another sample product medium. So we can actually see how those rank. And you can see what each price ID is doing. Refunds, again, finally have a report for that. I now know the number of refunds I have, refunded items, total refund amount, things like that. Really kind of cool to take a look at. This is Payment Gateways is building out. Again, I ran everything in test mode yesterday, so there's not going to be a whole lot here, but you can kind of get a breakdown on your payment gateways. The much requested taxes report. We account for a global rate, and then each defined rate has a row. And we can see that I ran some orders with my address being in Arizona, which is where I'm at, and grossed $21, charged $1.36 in tax, which means I made $20 after taxes. So that's kind of a really cool feature that, and again, it's really just super helpful. One thing we used to have was just like this big old long list of file download requests, which doesn't really help you understand like what people are downloading. This came big time with people who run like with free downloads, if they're using the free downloads add-on, because they're running a store of free content. Like, what do you want to know what your most popular downloads are in the past 30 days versus 2 weeks? So the concept of being able to look at like reports on the number of files downloaded is really kind of cool. Discount reports are also a thing. We can see that I generated 2 discounts and used 2 discounts in this date range at the ratio of 1 to 83. So one discount to 83 orders, customer savings of $10.50, average discount amount was $5.25 because it was used twice. So, and we get to see our most popular one. And then we can kind of get in customers. This is going to look a little funky because our CLI importer imports every customer as they're created. So it shows I created 1,700 customers yesterday when I really generated payment data for the past like year. But we can kind of see the average lifetime value, and the average number of orders for that are generated. So, and it gives you your most valuable customers for the last 30 days by value and your top 5 customers of all time on the report. So we can you can get an overview of who like your best customers are. Okay. Trying to think, there's one setting screen I think that'll be really interesting to people, and that's taxes. Taxes always come up. We are not tax experts, so we can't give tax advice. However, we strive to build a functional yet basic tax system. We are working on integrating with TaxJar and an add-on to do complex taxes. But we wanted tax rates to be immutable. So you'll notice we've got this new concept of deactivating a tax rate. So showing deactivated tax rates will show that I had a California one that was 12%. I could add a new one here for California. That's 10%. I don't actually know the tax rate in California, but that seemed accurate. So I'll add that. So now I have a tax rate of 10% for California. And the really cool and interesting thing comes when, let's say I wanted to re-add a tax rate of 12%, but I forgot that to show them. So I'll just do United States, California again, and I'll do 12% and add it. You notice it did it really quick, but that's because we just reactivated the old rate. So we don't actually ever delete a tax rate. We just set it to inactive. If you deactivate it, it's inactive. And if you try and re-add one and we have one that matches, we reactivate the tax rate. And this is so we can do accurate tax reporting in the admin. So that's actually one of my favorite UI changes that we've made. So yeah, there's some nice changes to the payment gateway screen, nice drag and drop changes and kind of like reordering things.
Yeah, it all just looks prettier, you know?
It's a lot less compressed. You'll notice like our subsections are just a lot easier to read. So yeah, it's been really fun to kind of go through, you know, like our admin now has, I think this is Select 2 integration. So I can change states and I'm wigging out the browser with this screen share. But yeah, so you can change things and search them so you're not having to scroll through the long list, which is super helpful. So those are kind of some of the changes. I'm going to stop the screen share.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. Live demos, man. I hate live demos when I'm doing them.
Hey, apparently that was not terrible.
That was good. I hope you guys appreciated like this little live glimpse watching Chris use this stuff and demo those features. If you have any questions about what you saw, go ahead, drop them in. We've already got some questions. You want to dive into some of these, Chris? Let's see what we've got. Cyril asked, would it be possible to set different tax rates per vendor? If not, what would be the workaround case be? This is in cases where you're using like front-end submissions and you have vendors on your site. Any thoughts on that?
So yeah, that gets a little difficult because tax rates get really strange, and that's where the EDD core tax rates are really basic tax rates. The hardest part with tax is everyone does it different. And I'm not talking like every store. I'm talking every like state, every city does it different. For instance, the concept here where I live, there is one like bypass road that has a bunch of stores on it, and they charge an extra 2% tax than people a block away. Like, so depending on the store and the location and things like that, taxes can get really complex really fast, which is why we always recommend something like we're actually focusing on trying to get our tax chart integration to be up and running with all the features we can, because it will actually do a lot of that for you. The concept of tax chart has the idea of called a nexus, which means you can say, hey, this order isn't from me, it's from a vendor, and they are located here in this state, in this city, at this address. That's where the tax needs to be charged from. And then that way they can charge tax accurately if they were to just charge it by the store. So I would say that's probably going to be something that'll have to be handled in probably our tax chart integration. So I will make a note to look into FES integration for vendors for that.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody watching this after the fact, be sure to check out the chat that I believe you can see unfold while watching the video, even if you're recapping it later, and there's a lot going on in there. Let's see what else everyone's asking about. I think it was Casey has a question about generating reports. When you add meta to your products, I know that within your product, we can get reports based on the different products, the different product variations, the different categories of products, but is it possible to pull reports of sales based on product meta?
I'm trying to think of the database query classes right now. So this is an interesting thing, because what you're really doing is right now, to get reports on a specific download, you would just say, hey, go get me the reports for these download IDs. I want to know the sales records for these download IDs, and it would return them.
Yeah.
So really, it's as simple as we may be able to look at doing a query for a meta for the download IDs, but it would be as simple as, before running our stats class with the download IDs, just saying like, hey, what download IDs have this meta? And then you pass in the download IDs you got back. So we may be able to build that into the query class. It could be something that I'll write down and look at. It probably won't make 3.0 by download meta, only because it's a kind of a scope creep. That would be a huge scope creep thing, because we've got the query class pretty dialed in, and anything we do at this point is just going to add complexity. So
Right.
yeah, but I will definitely look and see if it's something that we can do in it, or if it requires like a single meta query before passing in the download IDs. But yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it kind of is. Okay, cruising along. We've been we were shooting for doing this for about an hour, and we're getting close to that. So feel free to drop any final questions. If we don't get to all the questions, we can keep a record of those, maybe answer them either next time, or you're welcome to shoot them to support or tweet at EDDWP on Twitter, and we'll do our best to provide you with good responses.
Scott, CloudFront S3, it's on the radar. I've looked into it a little bit. So the hardest thing we're having with the Amazon S3 integration is all the other Amazon S3 integrations that exist for WordPress. We've got the EDD one, but then there are like quite a few other plugins, whether it's forms or something like that. And we updated at the request of Amazon to the latest API version, and they didn't change the namespace on it really, and it kind of caused some problems because other sites were including the old API, which kind of broke. So I'm hoping we're to the point that everyone's updated their S3 APIs, and if you haven't yet, do it please. And then we can start working out our details for it. Probably not before 3.0 and SCA, because those are definitely top priority right now, is getting SCA and 3.0 done. But it's the beauty is, as soon as we kind of clear 3.0 and probably 3.0.1, we can really start honing in on extensions. So yeah.
Sure.
I did see some references to Jilt. Yes, Jilt's great for generating discount codes.
Right, unique discounts codes. We use it ourselves, and it's a pretty good set of tools. Briefly, front-end related stuff that's coming with EDD. We released not that long ago EDD blocks. Brief backstory for that, and plan for the future when it comes to Gutenberg compatibility and so on.
Yeah, so EDD blocks is our Gutenberg block tool. So you can create a page with downloads, tags. Actually, you know what? This can be easier. We've got some time, so let's just do this.
Fun.
Sorry, guys. We're getting another screen share. We're doing this. Here we go. I actually created this page or this site using EDD blocks for popular downloads. So you can do it by download count, by sale counts. You can do it by, here's our tags. I used a really cool image I grabbed off Google for the tag image. So you can separate it by tags, categories, downloads. We don't want to see Kyle right now. Pages. So we do have a block editor called EDD blocks. It is free on WordPress.org. And let's see, let's add a block called downloads, and we can go through and say, let's do downloads. We'll do, I don't need that many. Let's do 10 per page. Let's do 6. And I'm trying to think of like how it's going to look on the screen right now.
Yeah.
So we'll do 3 columns. So it'll be too wide. Let's show the let's not show the excerpt. We'll just show the image, and we can order them by price. Sure. Descending. and we'll show all downloads. And we can go ahead and say this will be downloads by price. And we can publish that. I'll talk to Andrew why that's not loading. It might be a 3.0 thing. So now we have downloads by price.
Wow.
On a page with pagination.
It's pretty nice.
And you can go into like, this still also respects, I'm using Vend, so like I can do a full page width, so it doesn't look so terrible. So yeah, I really love the Blocks plugin. It's EDD Blocks is really awesome. That was written by Andrew Monroe, who wrote that for us. So he is one of our affiliate AVP devs. We can do quite a few things too. I mean, let's add another one. Why not? We'll do blocks on blocks.
I love this.
Let's do the categories. We can show 3 categories. I think we only have 2. So see, this is previewing. So we'll have to look at the query thing, but we'll do 1 column. We don't have any thumbnails. Yeah, we'll do that. And we'll order by account. So now we can just look at that page and also have the category listing. So blocks really makes things pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I love EDD Blocks. Now, the plan with it was to go into 3.0. Obviously, Gutenberg released let's see, how do I not screen share anymore? There we go. 3.0, and we wanted to do it by the time Gutenberg came out. Gutenberg launched in December. Whether you were happy about that or not is irrelevant, but it came out. So we're like, well, let's get our blocks. We've been building it as a feature plugin. We didn't build it into 3.0 right away. We wanted to build as an add-on, and then we pushed it out with Gutenberg. And the goal is to just roll that into core. It's kind of being built as a feature plugin, kind of like WordPress core does, where we're just buffing it up, and then when it's ready to go, we'll merge it in. So yeah, I really like EDD Blocks. It's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I guess, there could be people out there who are going to miss the old short codes and stuff and want to still write it that way.
And you can still use them.
Hey, you can still use them if that's your thing, if you're that kind of person. But for me, I'm taking the blocks.
Casey, as far as test payment gateway stuff for free downloads, we will be working on that. We have an open issue. It's kind of a scope creep for 3.0. Right now, we are attempting to come up with a solution to create a kind of like a manual gateway that shows up. So that way we can kind of see those as manual purchases. So we are working on something for that.
Super cool.
And the free downloads will maybe have its own gateway. I don't know yet. We need to kind of figure out what that looks like.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it is. I get it. It's kind of a weird thing. So
sure. Okay. We're at about an hour, and I don't see any burning questions flying in. I think Chris and I are going to wrap this up. And if you have any further questions, like I said, don't forget to tweet at EDDWP on Twitter. Shoot a support query our way. You can even mention us, especially if it pertains to anything that we talked about today. The recording of this will remain on YouTube if you want to go back and rewatch anything. And if you guys like this, we don't mind hearing about it. It'll encourage us to continue doing live office hours in the future. But at this time, I think we'll keep trying it. Like I said, the feedback is welcome.
Yeah, I really appreciate the questions, the feedback. It's one of those things. It's a project this large is hard to do, and I appreciate everyone kind of giving their feedback and their outside view on what it looks like, because sometimes it's hard to remember what it looks like from the outside when you're so deep in the woods. So yeah, I really appreciate all the feedback and all really good questions. Appreciate that too. So yeah,
very cool. All right. Well, we're going to sign off. Thanks, Chris, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you guys later.